place you think, okay, any of the parks that are there, up at the school, driving back out there to that area, yelling, hollering, and you drive through town after it started getting dark, of course, and flashlights were all over the place.
As the dark started setting in, what went through your mind, if anything?
It's late and it's cold. I mean, you even, maybe not so much here, but in Indiana, it'll go from an 80-degree day down to 35 degrees at night, and only one of the girls had a sweatshirt on. I don't know why Abby put one on as opposed to Libby. Apparently she listened to you when she said y'all need a jacket.
Guys,
so that was the whole thing, is they're not wearing clothes. If they're outside, is hypothermia a serious issue? Not yet, unless they've been in the water.
Well, like she said, the police, just for safety, we were searching all over the whole area. Literally, probably hundreds of people at this time were out searching. I went back to, of course, we'd been out searching, we all were, and went back to the fire station with the volunteers that were there, and it was probably around 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, and they kind of called off the official, I don't know exactly what time, so don't hold me to that, but they called off the official search, saying, okay, let's resume in the morning. But the volunteers said no. And they all rallied and said, all right, let's go back out there. We're going to light up these creek banks. We're going to walk this creek. And
but was there enough water for them to have drowned in it?
Yeah, it doesn't take much water to truly. There's spots in Deer Creek. It's not a real deep creek. I used to fish it when I was a kid. But
so you guys were still out there through the night. When did they tell you they had found the girls?
Well, that wasn't until the next day. So I just want people to realize there was people searching all night long. I don't think I went home until 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, but there's people that said, Mike, we're going to stay out here all night. We'll see you in the morning.
But for a validation point, one of the reasons why they said is we are bringing in dogs from Kentucky. So the fewer people that we have out on that specific area. So the next day there was a restriction to the last path because of that. We had been both sent to our homes to get clothes that the girls had worn. The biggest thing was, let's not confuse these animals anymore by all of these people crisscrossing. It's just a thing. So there was some reasoning that was good for the fact that the dogs were coming in, and that is a protocol.
So what time did they let you know the next day they had found the girls?
I think we were, we all were at various points. I'd actually gotten in a canoe and floated down the creek for probably half a mile. I'd just gotten back to the fire station. They were doing a very coordinated search, and that's how they worked at starting the next morning, where hundreds and hundreds of people were showing up, and they would send out groups with some sort of law official, whether it was somebody from the fire station, because you can't just trespass on people's property, if you do it correctly.
Yeah, I remember that there was a search warrant executed on the person's home and property right near where the girls were found.
That was
everybody
after the
immediately
fact,
thought,
after
wow, that must be the person, the perp, but not necessarily. That's just where were you when you learned that?
I was searching. We were all in different. We were all split up because, he was in a canoe. I was in a group. I was in a group that wasn't even close at the time, but a friend of ours was with one of the groups that found them, and his wife was with us, and he called her. They told me that they found him, but that's all they would tell me at that time.
Did you ask any questions? Did you think they were
I jumped
alive?
in a car and
Did you think they were alive?
they wouldn't.
Did you ask them?
I went telling. I asked them to take me to him. I said they found him. I wasn't even asking how they found him. I just said, Libby needs me. You need to take me to her now. The thing of it is, we had found out before some of the officials that were at the trailhead. They kept saying, no, they hadn't. I said, yeah, they found him. So they didn't officially call us in until later, but we knew. We knew before we were officially told.
You knew what?
That they'd been killed. We had friends and that were in the search party that found them.
So they called you and said, we found him. The wife called you and said,
She
"We
didn't
found
call
him."
me. She called somebody
Husband.
that, no, the husband was with one of the groups.
The wife
The
was with
wife
you.
was in my group, and he called her. But they wouldn't tell me all they would tell me was they found her. They found him.
So you race, you all converge, and what happens?
I was actually already at the fire department. My dad was coming back from Michigan. I don't know why I waited. I don't know that I waited so long to call, but much like the day that I had to call him to tell him I was expecting Abby and I was not married. I'm sitting there and my best friend, she's like, you really need to call your dad and let him know. He's no more and gotten home from this weekend with Abby. He's back in Michigan. It is 4 a.m. He's
Yeah.
getting up for work. She's like, just call him and
So
tell him.
you were
I'm
at the
like-
fire department.
And I remember the first thing he said was, why didn't you call me sooner? I said, because I thought we'd find him earlier. So I'm waiting at the fire department for him to get there. And he had gotten there just an hour prior. So he's asking questions. He's telling them where they stayed for the weekend, who they talked to, all those things. And I was on the phone with somebody from out of town that had lived there, and he knew that area. He said, how high is the water right now? I was like, well, not that bad. And I turned around, and there was a quad that had pulled up. And I was like, hey, how high is the water? And this gal screamed at me. She's like, not right now. And I'm like, oh, all right, okay, never mind. And all of a sudden, the pastor comes walking towards me, and he starts talking, and I'm like, hey, I gotta go. And he said, okay. And I hung up the phone. And he said, has anybody talked to you in the last few minutes or come up to you? And I said, no. He says, we need to go upstairs. Okay. I didn't have to hear anything past that. I knew if there was something good, I wouldn't have heard it quite that way.
We know at that juncture, a photo emerged of a white male walking across the bridge at Delphi. And I remember thinking, where did this photo come from? How do we have the photo? There's no security surveillance video of photos on the bridge. And I thought, is this from the girls' phones? The girls were found. They'd been killed. Not far from the bridge.
No,
Just, 1,000 feet
if that.
down? Like you would go over the bridge, and then you're on land, and then go down to where the water was. And it was amazing to me that they were not found sooner. Not that it would have made difference, but there may have been more forensic clues if they had been found sooner. I don't know for sure that that's true, but that is where they were found. And then a search of the girl, of the one phone, revealed that she had the wherewithal. She got this guy's voice telling them to go down, essentially. And I keep wondering, what did he have that made the girls obey him? Did he have a gun? Did he have a knife? Why didn't they run? Maybe they're conditioned like my children are to do what adults tell them to do. I don't know why they went down there. But that is where they were found, and that is where the investigation begins. And this is the stumper. They've got the guy's photo. They've got his voice. They can time exactly when this happened, but still, no perpetrator. Let me just ask generally, is there any of the perpetrator's DNA at all, in any way?
We've never been officially told or untold, much like Jerry Holman said yesterday. They've never specified one way or the other. They came to our homes, took all of our DNA as they should. So because they said we need to know
So
who
no.
belongs in the house,
Got it.
who has stuff on them that belongs there. You wash your clothes in the same washer and dryer. You sit on the same couches. You have people come over. They didn't ask for.
Is there any unknown male DNA?
They have
Be
never
it,
told us one way or the other.
Skin cells, be it saliva, be it sperm, be it anything. Do you know if there's any male DNA there?
I think that's something that's the investigators know. You know, what I mean, that's information that's pertinent to the case.
Well-
And I hate to use this term, but to protect the integrity of the investigation, that doesn't need to get out.
Agree.
And
The reason I'm
this is our-
asking is because of Golden State Killer, which was a
Yes.
major advancement. What now? We've got his picture, we've got his voice, we've got the time he was there. I would think if it was a local inhabitant, a resident, somebody would have ID'd him by now. He's not in disguise. True, he has some facial hair and a hat, but we can figure out how tall he is, how much he weighs. Remember in Midlothian, you can, for instance, Alan's standing there. If I'm the FBI, I'm a cop, I measure to the top of that cross in the door, and I can say that's how tall Alan Duke is. I can look at him photographically and determine how much he weighs based on that. So we know how tall he is, we know he's a white male, his hair color, how much he weighs, what his voice is, where he was, but we don't have him. Joe Scott?
The most important thing that we want to consider here, and I think that it always goes back to this, is the idea of timeline. The timeline is very, very critical in this case. You know, when I first came in contact with this case, I think that I was on the air within 2 days. And when I heard about the nature of it, I was shocked. I was absolutely shocked because I knew that as a result of this, of what they were saying, I was like, this is going to be a home run. They're going to catch this guy immediately because it's contained. You guys had this grid search that was going on. A lot of this information was coming out in regards to this. And so as time went by, when things didn't gel like I thought that they would at that moment in time, I was kind of surprised because the bodies were contained in this specific area. They were found immediately adjacent to the bridge. It's a small community. It's a rural community.
So what now, Jessica?
I think that now moving forward, the police, and please forgive me, I'm going to be blunt, the police have used the words heinous a couple of times, and that tells me that there is contact going on. And I think that that goes without saying. I think to what point there is contact, physical contact, and what the nature of injuries are. One of the things I would be very curious about is this. Was the coroner present at the scene? I'm not talking about autopsies. I want to know, was the coroner present at the scene? What type of examination was done at the scene? Because for me, one of the things I want to know is I want to understand what's called postmortem interval. How long had these two girls been deceased? And that had to be measured at that moment in time. The reason I'm kind of have an attachment to this, I spent several years in Indiana training coroners. I taught at their state coroners academy, and I know that these people are trained very well considering the limitations they have in rural areas. I would want to know what kind of attention was paid at the scene to some of the steps that we take in the examination of remains at the scene. How was it documented? How were they able to process this? I'm not talking about the cops. And then I know that the girls' remains were taken to Terre Haute, which is it's almost an hour and 45 minutes from y'all's location, where the further examination was conducted at that point in time. I want to know how much attention to detail did they pay at that moment in time, and the measurements, particularly things like, and again, forgive me, but things like body temperature.
We have the picture of the perpetrator. And by now, nobody in the area can identify this person. Do you believe, and I wanted to ask this question, do you believe that anyone is covering up for someone locally?
It would be assumed that somebody knows who this is, and for whatever reason, they haven't come forward yet. A mother, a sister, a family member. Maybe they haven't, though. Maybe they really just don't know, but you get that feeling about somebody, we don't know.
Do you have any reason to think someone's covering up for the perp? Or that they really don't know, and I'm asking you.
I deal with facts and data. That's the kind of guy I'm an engineer. And, I mean, could he be? Yeah, we can talk theories and
How many
stuff.
people live in Delphi?
3,000.
Okay.
So is he there? Could be.
I don't see how.
I
really do
I
not
find
see
it-
how
find it
in a
doubtful.
town of 3,000 that nobody knows this man.
Well, that's just it. We aren't a big, there's probably 10,000 people in our whole county.
Yeah.
It's
I
very
grew up
rural.
in a town
Yeah, it's not like
area
New
that
York.
small in no way. I mean, this is very accurate and detailed.
I know, I had to jump in. So one of the other things to keep in mind are what amazing girls you raised, that one of them took the picture as that person is walking. And Nancy, the point I would make with that is trust your gut. I have no doubt she never would have taken a picture
Yeah, I'm
of
wondering
him
why did she
approaching
take the picture?
if they knew him. Why would they take a picture of a clandestine, person walking towards them? So in my mind, this is someone they did not know from the community, and
That's brilliant.
Yeah,
And
right?
you know what
I mean-
else? It leads me to think that he had done something other than, like,
Yes.
I passed all of you guys in the hall. I didn't say, oh, and take a picture. He had to do something.
Agree.
To make them go, oh, we're going to take his pictures. Let's see who has an idea that can help us. Yes. Be brief. Put it in a nutshell.
Hi, thank you. I'd like to know if they've given,
I haven't received a profile other than like the estimated weight, height, size, far as an actual person itself. No, I think there's what the investigators are leaning on the fact that we do have some good hard evidence. Like you said, we got a picture, we got a sketch, we got a voice. I still say somebody out there knows. And that person may not know
That
about
they
this
know.
case. I mean, they know the guy. This guy lives beside somebody, somebody's friend, somebody's coworker. We just need to reach that person. And through something like this, people help spread it out. Eventually, we'll get to that right person who has the wherewithal to make that call.
Have the police looked at their internet, their iPads, their cell phones, everything?
One of the first things they did was gather all of our stuff, our phones, the tablets, the passwords. We actually had to go and file for estates on the girls to get Apple and Google to release those things. That was one of the first things they saw, and including with the Snapchat photo that Libby took of Abby. There is no evidence whatsoever that they were intending on meeting anybody that day. That, as far as we know, they have not found anything, and that's what they said. They weren't planning on meeting anybody. They didn't even really tell anybody they were going. So this wasn't I know the girls are going to be out there,
it's an
and
avenue
we're coming.
they have to investigate. And we are here at CrimeCon, and we have with us the family of Liberty and Abby, who lost their lives at the bridge in Delphi. We have a live studio audience, and we are looking for clues. So I'm backing up. Remember when we tried cases without DNA? Think. And this is how we did it. So do you guys know if they have gone to, a drifter didn't just walk there from 45 miles away. Other places have surveillance video, not that bridge. But do we know if that has been gathered from, as she said, gas stations, truck stops, restaurants?
Yes, it has been.
It has been.
Yeah.
They
yeah,
did
but
right
it's a-
away.
But it's a great idea. You're right. I mean, that's what we're here for. If there's something that we haven't done, we definitely want to know about it.
And Nancy,
Is there evidence in there that, you've got people that primitive camp in that particular area and they would go unnoticed?
So
setting
is
up
there
their
evidence
Yeah.
of any campground at all?
primitive camping where there's just random fires that have been set and that sort of thing?
Not that I came across. I actually did a grid search out there shortly after this all happened. I couldn't just sit idle. I cleared it with the FBI and the police and said, hey, I got some buddies, and got about a dozen of us and kind of gridded the whole area out and did a search looking for stuff.
Because I'm thinking
Came
if
around,
he's eating things like beanie weenies or whatever it is that he's eating,
It
sitting
may
around
not
the
be a
campfire,
campfire. It
has-
may be
Yeah,
a tarp. It makes wondering if another search of the area for that very thing, because it took a while to find them. How do I know that there's not something out there like a tarp, like a sleeping bag, like a blanket, like anything, a can that might have a fingerprint on it where he was? Do you look at his clothes? Did he just show up that day, or had he been there? He's got on several layers, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what hides a lot of his features as well. But did he arrive on a motorcycle? Uncannily warm, overly dressed, in my opinion. These are questions that we have that we don't have the
But if
answers
he
to.
did
As far
arrive
as back
on
to
a
the
motorcycle, is there an area, like a surveillance area, like at a truck stop or something like that, that we could look for?
Oh, we don't have, we're not big enough for a truck stop.
Gotcha.
we have what we call a gas station.
I'm also wondering about his clothing, like, for instance, specifically that hat and the jacket, what kind it is, where it could be purchased. I mean, you can identify a trash bag from the lot, the manufacturer, the store, where it was purchased. What about that? That's going to
And-
need some serious FBI work on that.
Yeah.
Absolutely, and that's the picture that was taken from the video off of Libby's phone. We tried to clear it up, and I've been told that they've sent it to several different places, NASA, Disney, all kinds of places, but it comes down to pixelation.
Yeah.
And there's only, you can only polish it so much. Now, you don't want to change or alter that, because that begins to mess with the integrity, again, of the information for the investigation. You can't go in there and change it around and say, okay, I bet his nose is this big. I bet his lips are that big. Well, then you're making it look like somebody.
I'm
And
just
a good
thinking
defense
about if
attorney's
we
going
could
to come in and blow that
identify
up.
any of the clothing and go take it to a location. And if he is on a motorcycle or has a car, for instance, that makes him more substantial. That means he's got an apartment or a home as a whole different line of investigation as opposed to a drifter that might have been eating out of a can of tuna pop top somewhere in those woods, which is a whole nother line of investigation to research the area. I don't mean research, look it up online. I mean, walk it.
No, I understand. Yeah, and that, trust me, that area's been walked very well. I spent 2 weeks out there doing it myself, as well as a bunch of other people. And also,
But what were
most
you
of this is all
looking
private
for?
property. It's very, very reviewed by these people. You don't go on there, you'll get arrested.
But what were they looking for when you were searching? Were you looking for a
Anything and
key?
everything out of the ordinary was the direction that I give them. I said, anything that looks out of place. If it's not a stick or twig or something,
Hold on, let
I
me
want
get
to know
this
about
suggestion.
it. And we did. I'm not saying there's not something there. I mean, I'm not perfect, but
Good morning,
I did a pretty
everybody.
thorough search.
Thank you for being here. My name is Lynn King. I'm a private investigator to do a crime.
And look at his physique. He had not missed a meal. This is not some homeless person that doesn't have anything to eat that's shuffling for just money for food. This
No, you're
guy
right.
is eating on a regular basis.
So to answer your question, about 15 mile away to the north is the nearest truck stop. Obviously we have gas
He
stations.
had to come from somewhere.
Yeah, I don't get the feel.
We're looking for a guy that I think has a record. It could be for something petty, like peeping Tom or snatch and grab, breaking in a car, something, because he didn't start at age 40 plus.
No, he didn't.
No.
This is not a homeless guy because he's well fed. His clothes are decent.
Anybody look through the school district? I'm a teacher. If this is an opportunity and he's been there to walk the trails before, maybe he knew that the kids were out of school that day. I'm not saying that he watched your daughters and granddaughter. What I'm saying is, have you checked through the school website where there are multiple hits to look at your school calendar to see if this guy knew that school was going to be out that day?
That's a good point. I'll take that one.
That's
I like that.
that's a really
There,
good point.
there were people that looked that assumed that, well, it had to have been public knowledge that the kids didn't have school that day. Well, yeah, if you lived in the school district, but I don't go into the Tennessee website and say, oh, well, look at what school isn't going to be in school in session in spring break. But
I know
mean,
you wouldn't, but a predator might. That was
there-
trying to get
you are
information.
correct.
Guys, I know this.